I've got the Spyderco Manix 2 in Spy 27 steel, and it is just about brand new. And you know what they say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, I don't think I can help myself. So I've got some plans for this guy. So first, I'm thinking I might try a swedge similar to the native 5s. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to flatten and crown the spine, kind of like a mule team. So I'm just going to go take it to the grinder, see how that goes. I'm also going to give it an acid and stone wash as well, because it's going to go along really nicely with some scales that were provided to me by Rips Garage Tech. So very special thank you to RGT, Rips Garage Tech, for helping sponsor this video. They did provide me these scales for this Manix for me to shout them out, so I greatly appreciate that. They make some extremely high quality aftermarket parts. The scales that I'm using for this one, stay tuned for that, because they are some of their best that they have to offer. So let's go ahead and take this to the grinder and see what we can do with this blade. So I'm just starting with a 220 grit belt on this one, and I'm just going to do a little bit at a time. I don't want to take off too much at once, but I do have to be careful because that higher grit, it's going to get hotter a lot faster. And I do want to keep my finger on the blade right there, so if I start to feel any heat at all, I know when to cool it off. I always keep it cool enough to be able to touch with my bare hands, and that's just one of the ways I can see if it's starting to get too hot. So just speeding things up a little bit so we can see how much we removed here, and we can see that it is starting to come together with that swedge, not looking too bad. So this actually started quickly turning into a little bit off the left, a little bit off the right, and before I knew it, I was kind of taken off more than I really want to. So I was going to try to do what I could to even it out, but I think I ended up just wanting to kind of abandon the swedge on it. It didn't look bad, it looked okay, but it also didn't really look kind of different enough from the normal Manix blade. I wanted it to be very noticeably different right away, so not too happy with this one. Let's go ahead and just flatten the spine out on it. So gonna go ahead and put a lower grit belt on there and just take off a good little bit at a time. Don't really have to worry about being quite as careful with this one as the swedge, because I'm not really having to worry about keeping it perfectly even on both sides, so I can kind of speed through it a little more, still being very careful to keep it cool, especially towards the tip there. And I want to make sure I round it onto kind of the upper portion of it as well, because I don't want there to be too aggressively of a change in the flat to the upper portion of the blade. So we can see we're definitely getting there, making some progress. Flatten it out real nice. So I'm going to go ahead and raise the grit up to a 220 just to refine those scratches on it. And it is getting really into a place that I am getting very happy with it. Now that's more what I was looking for. Something that, if it wasn't in the rest of the knife, you couldn't tell what it was. So of course we're going to get the nail polish on the tang of the blade and prep our acid wash. So we've got ferric chloride and distilled water, and I just do a 50-50 mix. If you look up, there's different mixes that different people use. I think the stronger the mix that you use, the less time you want to leave in at once. And I only do about 45 seconds to a minute at a time. So we can see it's just fixed to this little piece of wood with some fishing line. And you definitely don't want to over etch. You can get into territory where you can permanently damage the steel, and to the point where you're not going to come back from it. So I definitely don't want to ruin the blade. So I just look at the timer on the camera, make sure we don't go past a minute, and give it a check. So we can see here that the reaction doesn't take place immediately. If you look closely right about there, we can see it's still pretty grayish, and then as soon as I wipe it away, it turns dark. That's not an effect of the camera or anything like that. It changes very aggressively, very quickly as soon as you wipe it away, and that steel reacts with the air. Now I want to get it just a little bit more. There's some of the cracks that I still wanted to get into. Maybe another 30 seconds, and it is looking good. I'm going to wipe some of the acid away and then neutralize it. It's just about a tablespoon of baking soda in some of that distilled water. Make sure I'm rinsing that acid off really well, and then I'm going to make sure the blade is very dry. I'm going to give it a few moments to dry out on its own, and just again double check that it is completely dry before I get it in the stonewash. So the stonewash media that I use is just the Harbor Freight ceramic media. I think it's the only ceramic they have there. It's these little triangular pieces with some very aggressive edges on it. I'm gonna go ahead and add a few because this is still the same media that I've used for all my other projects, and it's just in a peanut butter jar there. Gonna hit it with some WD-40 to keep everything lubricated and displace any moisture that may be left in there. Connect it to our drill atop the toy car. Use the C-clamp to get the drill going, and just going to let this run for about 15-20 minutes and check up on it. So my goal with this is for it to match the finish on the clip that was provided to me from RGT. And we can see that the blade is still a little bit darker, so I'm going to let it run for 10-15 more minutes. I give it a little shake as I put it in so it doesn't give too many like lateral lines as I'm jamming it in there. I try to move the media around as I'm putting the knife in there. So I'm going to let it run a little bit more until it's in a place that I'm happy with it. And moving on to sharpening. So I do have to grind away that oxidation layer, which is one of the reasons why I don't really want to do serrated blades with this, because I wouldn't really have a way to really grind that secondary bevel. So after the sharpening, we are ready for reassembly, which aside from getting the lanyard tube out of the old scales, really wasn't all that bad with the Manix. And here is the final result. Special thanks again to RGT Rips Garage Tech. They did provide these scales as well as this pocket clip. So these are the dark washed ripple scales as well as a dark washed titanium handle clip, and these are very lightweight. They barely add any weight to this overall build, but we can see that this Manix blade no longer has the leaf shape. It's got a nice flattened spine and of course a dark wash to match those scales as well. Now this actually also has a Flytanium titanium ball cage as well as the ceramic ball. I was back and forth on whether I wanted to do the ceramic ball with this one, but I had never tried it before, and let me tell you, the difference in action is very noticeable. This thing is much snappier, and it even sounds different. It is really changed the action on this for the better. I am really happy with the way that this build turned out. I think of all of the customization projects I've been doing lately, this one has definitely been my favorite so far. I ended up not going with the rounded spine. I didn't want to remove too much material and get too thin on the upper part of the blade here, and I was just still pretty happy with where it was, and I didn't really want to introduce any more opportunities for something to possibly go wrong. So sometimes when you're just happy with the way something is, you need to know when to stop. But this, again, very happy with the way that this build came out. Really awesome. Thank you again to RGT Rips Garage Tech for providing these scales and clip, and thank you for watching.